Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Chainsaws are an essential tool for farmers and rural landowners. They can also be dangerous. If your boxwoods need pruning this year, don't put it off. Local produce season is here, and a state marketing campaign has a fresh look.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay. Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Chip Oaks Plantation Farm and Forestry Museum in Surry County. Accidents on a farm can happen in a second, and one of the most dangerous tools anyone can use is a chainsaw. Norm Hyde reports that's why it's so important to follow basic safety guidelines.
I was in the hospital for several days, and it was terrifying. It happened before I even knew it.
Meade Stoll still remembers that day about 20 years ago when he was cutting a tree branch and things went wrong in the blink of an eye. He'd cut branches like these countless times before.
I wasn't paying attention. I was going too fast. I reached down to cut it off, second nature, and it was under pressure, and I paid for it.
Today, a scar blazes across Stoll's forehead, a vivid reminder of his close call and his reason for teaching others about chainsaw safety. The Allegheny County Farm Bureau organized this demonstration at Dabney S. Lancaster Community College.
We kind of learn by trial and error what you can do and what you can't do. I think every one of us has a chainsaw story.
This part of the country, part of Virginia, chainsaw is a very common item. You can acquire a chainsaw anywhere, but and there is a safety manual, but you don't, it doesn't automatically come with a lot of awareness about how to safely operate it outside of the reading that you get when you purchase one.
Allegheny County Farm Bureau President John Quantz says his board of directors organized the course to serve their members and neighbors in their heavily forested community. A lot of firewood is cut in the summer by loggers and amateurs alike.
Before you take your hand off of it and you pull it back, bump the throttle.
About 50 farmers, first responders, loggers, and landowners learned how to properly hold a chainsaw, to start it and keep the steel links and teeth in good working order, along with actual cutting techniques.
It's a sharp tool, it's fast, and it can do a lot of damage quick if you're not careful. Obviously, the benefit is to have people operating a saw safely and hopefully saving people's lives or preventing serious injuries.
Chainsaw injuries are quite common. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report 36,000 people are treated in U.S. emergency departments for accidents related to chainsaws every year.
I've had friends hurt and killed. It's something we see every single day. We'll move in on most of the timber, a lot of timber we cut is on a farm, and we'll move into and talk to the landowner, and then we'll get out in the woods and see some of his stumps and some things he's been doing, and we're like, how did he not get killed doing it?
I've got a technique that I like to use if the chain's new.
This is kind of near and dear to me because, this is what we do every day, and I like for other people to learn the way we do it. We try to do things the right way. We try not to cut any corners because that's when stuff happens.
The safety program stressed the importance of wearing body, eye, ear, and head protection, and approaching each cutting project with a safety plan.
Every tree we set it up and look for hazards and dead limbs and safety things all around it, and then to have you a good escape route before you release that tree to cut it down if you're cutting a tree, to get away from it. Most limbs come back to the stump, and so if you go on a 45 away from the stump, you have a whole lot better chance of not getting hit than you did if you just stood there at the base of it and watched it fall.
Representatives from High Country Logging and the college's Forest Management Technology Department answered questions at the workshop. They focused on preventing accidents instead of relying on a quick response.
Think before you get yourself in trouble. We have a lot of great first responders in the county, but we have a lot of territory to cover and a lot of acres on farms. So if an incident happens, it can be some time, before there is help in the form of a rescue or whatever is required.
Stull is living proof that every safety precaution matters and every second counts.
Lots of times that's what happens, and that's how you get hurt. You get in a hurry. You want to get things done, and you neglect safety. You take your mind off what you're doing, and that's not good. That's when things happen.
The Virginia Farm Bureau Young Farmers Committee supports safety training events like this one around the state. Safety-minded farmers and loggers alike agree the best advice is to know your equipment, work carefully, and don't cut corners. In Allegheny County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde reporting.
Farming is considered one of the nation's most dangerous occupations, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Many farmers and other rural landowners work alone, far from rescue squads or emergency rooms. And many of them still have spotty or non-existent cell phone coverage, so calling for quick assistance is a challenge. In addition to the risks associated with tractor rollovers, work involving other equipment, and working around animals, farmers are at a risk for hearing loss, skin cancer, and mental stress associated with their livelihood. That's why putting safety first is so important.
I'm Mark Viette. Dad and I are changing our recommendations on when to prune boxwood. Coming up, I'll tell you why. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Bill McDonald, a cattleman in Montgomery County, Virginia. A new Census of Agriculture will be mailed out this fall, and it's your chance to be counted because your farm counts. If you're an ag producer who did not receive a 2017 census and you don't currently receive other USDA surveys, please sign up by going to the website on your screen. The Census of Agriculture is your voice, your future, and your opportunity.
When is the best time to prune boxwoods? Garden expert Mark Viette says there are definitely times to skip the shears in the garden.
Over the last few years, Dad and I have noticed a lot of damaged boxwood. This is what we call winter damage, and generally speaking, and it's where the cold weather affects the growth on boxwoods. We used to say don't prune past August. Now we're saying don't prune past July. When you prune with the hedge trimmers, and a lot of people use electric trimmers, which I don't use, if you prune late in the season, as the last pruning, you're going to get new growth that probably is going to occur August, September, October. It's not hardened off. It's very soft. And when you get a cold winter, it damages all of that new growth. So your plant looks awful for maybe 1 or 2 months. I prefer to shear with the hand shears. And that is where you reach in. Takes a long time. And you thin out the boxwood. But again, do this before the end of July. Or you can prune like this, and the new growth will harden off for the winter. A properly pruned boxwood is not going to have a lot of damage, and it's going to have openings where you could almost see into the base of your boxwood bush. Just to review, great times to prune boxwoods are going to be April, especially end of May and June. But you'll notice this is a boxwood that we pruned last year, and we might have pruned part of it in July, part in August. And it's really filled back well. The boxwood was this high, and we pruned it back and thinned it out. But the fact that we pruned some of them a little too late meant that they produced growth that you see here, and this growth got damaged this winter. So I'm going to come in and just prune this back. And I learned that, you know, this year I need to prune, you know, either March, April, or May and June if I'm going to do light pruning. And I'm just going to prune out the dead. See, it's nice and green here at the bottom, so I'm going to come in here and prune that. And here's a great example of the top part that's dying, and I'm going to prune right there. This foliage never hardened off, so it had a lot of sugars in it. It was still soft and tender, and if it's sort of near the surface or the edge, you can see that it needs to be pruned, and that's where it was damaged. I'll tell you one problem that I see is a lot of commercial people prune boxwood into gumballs and gumdrops. You know, a friend of mine from Richmond the other day said, I've got a better name for that. Meatball pruning. They look like little meatballs. So what they do is they prune them that way because we see commercial people doing it. You know, they do it every year. So all the growth is right at the top. You need to be able to look down into your boxwood and see growth coming from the base. So that shearing, nice compact shearing, is great if you're doing topiary, if you're going to do a penguin or a polar bear or something. That's great, but that's not normal pruning. So I like to prune where I don't really shear them, nice and compact, so I don't get meatballs in a garden. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Hi, coming up, a nice treat with that summer zucchini coming in out of your garden, a zucchini tart. We hope you'll stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
Sometimes a gardener can become overwhelmed with a harvest of summer vegetables, like zucchini. What do you do with all of them? Chef Tammy Brawley has an answer from the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen, and welcome to Heart of the Home. Today I want to show you guys how to make a delicious zucchini tart with that summer zucchini coming into your gardens. We're going to start with a pie crust. This is a store-bought pie crust. Feel free to make a homemade one if you'd like. And we're going to have a piece of parchment paper waiting. Put it on top of your pie crust. We're going to fill it. We're going to pre-bake the crust before we do the tart. And what we're going to do is we're going to use ceramic pie weights to put into the pie shell. Now, these are heavy, and they are supposed to be because they're going to weight the shell down. You can certainly use these. You can purchase these online, or you can use dried beans or even rice. Something that's going to simply weight the pie shell down. We have our oven on 400 degrees. We're going to pop it in the oven for about 15 minutes. Then we're going to remove the pie weights, and then it's going to bake again for about 5 minutes. All right, so while our pie crust is baking in the oven, we're going to do our prep for the zucchini tart. We need a mandolin or a knife. We'll talk about that in a few moments. And you're going to need either a mixer or a food processor. I like to cut the ends of the zucchini off at an angle because I want them to be on the bias when we put them in the tart. I like to leave the core intact because I know that's when I'm supposed to stop. So this is going to be very fast. All right. We're going to put the zucchini slices in a large bowl. And then we're going to make our dressing. I have a partial amount already in the food processor, so we're just going to make about half here. Got some delicious fresh herbs from the garden. I have got some basil, some parsley, and some fresh thyme, and then the basil and the parsley right into the food processor. I have 3 cloves of garlic here I'm going to toss in. If you like garlic, then use more. We want to do about about a quarter of a teaspoon or so of salt and pepper. While that's blending, you want to come back with about a 1/3 cup of olive oil. And then you want to take your dressing out. And I'm using a spatula. Certainly don't want to put my hand in there where that blade is. Now you can certainly use a spoon or a spatula here. I personally prefer to get in here with my hands. So I put a glove on. You're going to toss that zucchini with that wonderful dressing. Keep in mind what I said. It was parsley and basil and thyme. What if you have rosemary? Certainly use rosemary. If you don't have any parsley, don't worry about it. Don't use it. Your herbs of your choice. So once our pie crust is through baking, we're going to paint the pie crust with Dijon mustard. Then we're going to layer some cheese in it, and then we're going to toss our zucchini in it, and then we're going to bake it. So stay tuned. All right, so now our pie crust has actually baked about 20 minutes, 15 minutes with the pie weights, and then 5 minutes without. So we dump the pie weights into a metal bowl where they'll stay and they'll be cool for me to store later. And what we're going to do here is we're going to paint it, quote unquote, with some Dijon mustard. We're going to use a basting brush. You can certainly use a spreader if you want to. You want to baste it up until the top part of the crust. And get that nice and coated. And you want to have some cheese waiting, and really whatever cheese you like. I happen to have some seriously sharp cheddar. All right, then you want to come back and you want to layer your zucchini around in a nice decorative pattern. We're going to shingle it, as they say. And again, I'm going to use gloves. It just makes it a little easier. Handling this with tongs is a little cumbersome. So we're going to put our zucchini slices in here and fill it up. I'm going to go back in the opposite direction now, in the middle of the tart. And as you can see, we're layering it or shingling it. A delicious zucchini tart that's going to go into the oven now for about 30 minutes. And there you have it, a nice summertime treat with that zucchini coming out of your garden, a zucchini tart. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Zucchini is a variety of summer squash that is best eaten when less than 8 inches long. It's typically green in color, although a golden variety can be a deep yellow or orange. It's a descendant of the squash plant first harvested for food more than 7,000 years ago, although this variety was first bred in the late 19th century in Milan, Italy. It's typically served as a savory vegetable, although it's also popular in a sweetbread. Zucchini plants can be very prolific, producing a dozen or more squash through the summer season. It's an easy vegetable to grow, although it does require good pollination.
Each summer, many consumers look for the freshest local produce they can find. Barry Ridgway reports that's why a long-standing marketing campaign is getting a fresh look this summer.
We're heading into peak season for local foods. Since the 1990s, Virginia Grown has helped shoppers across the state find fresh, local agricultural products raised right here in Virginia. Recently, the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services updated the brand.
Virginia Grown is our promotional logo that represents all of the fresh product and produce being grown here in Virginia. So we wanted to bring it modern, make it new, and refresh it.
More than ever, consumers are seeking fresh, local products, and the updated Virginia Grown website can help in that task.
And it was because our consumers wanted to meet the farmer, wanted that relationship, and wanted to understand where the food was coming from. When COVID struck and all of us experienced it, you went into the grocery store and maybe couldn't find the fresh products you needed. Our consumers started turning to the farmers markets, to the CSAs, and to their local farmers to find the products that they needed for their family.
The Virginia Grown website can now help you find the specific product you're looking for in your area.
You can narrow it down to a farm 5 miles from your house or 50 miles from your house. But you can also locate where your farmers markets or your community supported agriculture CSAs are located.
They list all of the farms that do participate, which is really nice because it lets customers see the farms that participate with the program and Virginia Grown Local, and also find the locations of where we're located.
Along with the new website, the Virginia Grown logo received a new look. In the past, consumers have seen one of several different logos at stores and farms around the state. Moving forward, there will be only one Virginia Grown logo, simplifying the message and also ensuring that the brand includes all Virginia agricultural products.
So the Virginia Grown logo is marketed so that consumers will walk into their farmer's market or their local grocery store or drive past a farm stand on the side of the road and realize that farm stand or that farmer's market or even the grocery store is providing fresh local product produced near them by a farmer.
The Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services can also help producers in other ways.
Advertisement is a big thing. A lot of markets that I have done, they weren't advertised very well, and they didn't do well.
The Virginia Grown program also provides a lot of market material, which is great for us. It gets the word out, puts market locations on the website, which is good for individuals and customers to also see and spot.
If you're a producer who's not taking advantage of the Virginia Grown resources, consider joining the Virginia Grown website to list your business and inquire about marketing materials.
We are always looking for more producers. The more producers we have, the more information we can provide the consumers, and the more business we can ship to our farmers.
And consumers have no excuse now. The good stuff is waiting for them to come pick up.
Go to the virginiagrown.com website and find a farmer's market. Go visit the farmer's market, meet the farmers and the producers that are there, and take everything that's wonderful about the market home to your family.
In Chesterfield County, Virginia, this is Barry Ridgway reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hi, I'm Tara Vanderdusen. I work here with all of my husband and my brother-in-laws and my father-in-law on our family dairy farm here in eastern New Mexico. Here in New Mexico, one of our most precious resources is our water. We just are in, varying levels of droughts throughout the last several years, as well as just a declining water table. And so one of the most important things we can do is conserve our water. And one area where we use a lot of water is watering our crops. And so one thing that we have done is we are changing out the variety of crops that we plant. So this behind me is hay grazer, which is a drought tolerant crop. One of my favorite parts of our sustainability stories is actually what we feed our cows. If you're wearing cotton right now, when you make cotton, there's a seed that's left over. And so our cattle actually eat that. It's a great source of protein for them. Another piece of our sustainability story is that we use peanut shells for bedding for our calves. As we all know, on dairy farms, there is a lot of cow manure, but we actually use that cow manure, we compost it, all of it, and we use it out on our fields to improve our soil health. So sometimes when I tell people that I'm an environmental scientist working on the farm, it kind of surprises people, but it's really a crucial job in being able to make sure that we're properly managing our soil and our water. As an environmental scientist and as a mom, one of the things that's really important to me is making sure the quality of our water is absolutely at standard and above standard, because the water that we're feeding our cows and that we're using on our farms is the same water that ultimately ends up in our house, that we are drinking, that we are using every single day.
I'm Doug Darling, and I'm an owner partner with Darling Farms LLC. Our farm's been in our family since 1833. The family migrated from Massachusetts here and settled, and we've been farming ever since. Here on our farm, we've been predominantly no-till since the early 80s, when my dad first tried no-till corn back in like 83. Where we're standing right now is the middle of one of our filter strips. We've got over 49 acres of filter strips on our farm. And what this is under the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP. This filter strip then captures any of the nutrients that might migrate off my cornfield and that possibly would get into where we periodically get flooding because of the development upstream. This is our cover crop, and it's a three-way. And what it is, we have oats, we have soybeans, and then we have radishes. And what this does is it captures any of the nutrients that still might be in the soil that was not utilized by the wheat. And you can see the wheat stubble here. That's from this summer's crop when we harvested in July. So we've had multiple decades of trying to do things that are good for the environment, good for the soil, and good for water.
I'm Kamal Bell. I'm a first-generation farmer. A lot of farms like fourth generation or sixth generation, and they already have an infrastructure in place. So literally, when the older farmer gets ready to transition, it's a much easier transition just to give the whole operation to the kids or to someone in the family. But for us, we've had to start literally with nothing. It was an idea that I had, it was a passion, and I take a lot of pride in that, just knowing that I'll be able to do that for my sons. Farming is definitely not easy. I think, especially people my age, I don't think anyone has a job harder. And I solely say that because you're dealing with so many different parameters. You're dealing with the weather, you have to be a carpenter, you have to be an engineer, you have to be a scientist, you have to be a botanist, you have to be a chemist, you have to be all these different roles as a farmer. When I was in college, I learned about something called food deserts. And I started to learn on how food, especially healthy food, wasn't made accessible to certain communities based on their socioeconomic status. So instead of me just being like, man, like that's unfair, I decided I was gonna do something or try to do something about it. So I literally changed my major and I switched from animal science to animal industry, and I just set out on a path to be able to grow food, and our mission here is to get it to people who are affected by food deserts. Sustainability to me means longevity. It's like I value the moment, but I also like to think about things long term. And that's why the youth are so important, because without them being involved and them learning and being exposed to these ideas now, we can't ensure that farming is going to look the way we want it to look if we don't incorporate the youth. I definitely want this to be a family, something that stays in the family long term.
This is my sustainability story.